Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level?
It's over 9,000!
What, 9,000? There's no way that can be right.
When I was younger, I lived for Dragon Ball. My first encounter with it was one of the few times as a kid I ever got to visit a friend. I was maybe 7 years old, so we spent most of the day playing in the dirt outside until about 4 or 5 p.m. I want to say. My friend had 1 hour a day to watch TV, and this was it, so he wasn't going to miss it. We went in and booted up the old box TV that'd crush us to death if we somehow knocked it over, and that was the first taste of the rest of my life. That day, I watched my first episode of Dragon Ball Z, and it was honestly pretty mid. I can't lie. I was 7, so I wasn't looking at it through the lens I do now, and I was decently entertained. But this was one of those episodes in the Saiyan saga when Earth was preparing for the arrival of the Saiyans. The space pods were en route, and Goku was running down Snake Way, so it wasn't exactly the height of the series. But because my boy was hyped, I was hyped. That friend of mine had exactly one thing he would look forward to every day: a magical series unlike anything else that existed, and as of hours before my writing this, the legend responsible for the engineering of that decades-old memory is no longer among us. No ads, no editing, no nonsense. I just want to talk today about the profound impact art can have on a life and the impact Toriyama sensei's work had on me. In my early childhood, I never had to worry about food and usually knew what roof I'd have over my head, but that's pretty much all I had. I didn't have a single reason to be happy, going through tons of things no child should have had to experience. Story for another day. I was sickly and always hurt, so I wasn't playing sports, and the village I lived in was pretty far out from the school I went to, so I didn't exactly have friends around the neighborhood. It wasn't until seeing the utter joy Dragon Ball had brought to a small number of kids I knew that my life began to change. Over the next few years, I have such core memories as rationing electricity so the power wouldn't go out before my Dragon Ball Z episode, wishing death upon my cousin with a PS2 who'd use this Captain Ginyu figure to keep stealing my character in Budokai Tenkaichi, and eventually illegally watching every piece of Dragon Ball media in the worst order conceivable when that became possible with the internet. My earliest memories of being consistently happy were all thanks to Dragon Ball, and its iconic hero I could relate to for being dropped on my head as a child. Even as I inevitably exhausted every piece of Dragon Ball media in existence at the time, it was the gift that kept on giving as the search for something to fill the hole it would leave behind led me to anime. Yu Yu Hakusho, the original Full Metal Alchemist and Hunter x Hunter, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, eventually Toriko, and the hundreds of series that followed in the pursuit of the highs Dragon Ball gave me would go on to shape every aspect of who I am now, and in so many variations, the same is true for countless people around the world. One Piece's Oda and Naruto's Kishimoto revered Toriyama as their ultimate hero and the pinnacle they strived towards. Bleach's Kubo originally had his manga rejected by Shonen Jump, but continued to revise and improve the story because Toriyama wrote to him to cheer him on to continue and never give up. Generations of writers after them drew inspiration in a chain that all leads back to the legend the world mourns today, and we, as a society and culture, owe the man more than anyone can ever know for certain, and his immeasurable influence on art and pop culture is something we need to acknowledge. The contributions of artists to humanity are often overlooked when compared to other great figures responsible for advancing science, civilization, or medicine. But in ways, they have had just as rich an effect on what the world is today. I can't speak for anyone but myself on this, but every relationship I've ever had and every decision I've ever made was influenced by the great anime and manga that shaped my morals, and therefore by Toriyama as an extension of that. My love of basketball was influenced by Inoue's passion in Slam Dunk, the image of the ideal educator I strive to become by great teacher Onizuka and Assassination Classroom, and my unwillingness to waver on my morals by the innumerable heroes of justice that eased my heart through the darkest of times. Should a grown man that spent 4 hours giving lectures to adult students at a tertiary institute earlier today admit all of his beliefs were determined by cartoons targeted at children? Probably not. That's just the power of truly great art. Thanks to Toriyama sensei, I was able to stop just being alive and start living. For me, and I'm sure many others, he was able to change the trajectory of what would truly have been a miserable life and help someone that would go on to help someone. Toriyama, thank you for sharing happiness in a bleak world, for inspiring people and connecting more people than you will ever know. You are truly unparalleled beneath the heavens, and your legacy will never be shaken or broken. The mark you have left on the world will never fade, and in the words of one of the many disciples to inherit your will, may heaven be the joyous world you envisioned.